In the beginning, the band was purely an experiment and an idea and an argument. Like, I hated the way live bands sounded. I hated the way they played. I hated the way they got pushed around by their tour managers and their crews. And like, you'd watch a band in a club and they'd sound pretty good. Then you see them, like, you know, 9 months later playing at a festival, and they'd have like in-ear monitors and new amplifiers, and like 6 guys in cargo shorts running around after them, and they'd sound terrible. And I just wanted to sound on stage like the bands that I grew up watching sounded, which was really loud and trying to work for energy and the moment, for lack of a better word, rather than trying to replicate a record or sing perfectly, or, you know, I don't know how many bands that would, like, they were a good band, an interesting band, and then the next thing you know, they're like, well, we're all taking singing lessons, and, you know, because we really got to be able to do this stuff better live. And I was just like, man, I feel like that's just missing the point. Like, and I liked going on stage and being the least likely band, you know, with a couple of micro Korgs and a Casio and a crappy bass that we buy on eBay, and like, but also like putting together like things that I thought were just smart for physically enjoying playing. So this record, some things have changed. We don't have Al Doyle, which breaks my heart because we love him, and but he's in this, what are they called, Hot Chip or something, little band that happened to release a record at the same time, jerks. And so we don't have him, but we do have Tyler Pope back, the original bass player, who's like a super monster. And we've added, we have added Gavin Russum, who's Gavin Russum does this thing called Black Meteoric Star and Black Leotard Front and Crystal Arc, and Gavin and Delia on DFA. He like was the guy who built all our synthesizers and builds modulars, and is kind of a mad genius. And having him as an extra person in the band, because the new record has a lot of technical, like, you know, like the new record's got EMS, like old EMS synthy stuff on it, which is really hard to replicate. And we're building basically, we're building modular synths to be able to try and to do it right. I mean, we could do it with a laptop, but that would suck. So we don't want to suck in that way. We'll suck in other ways, but not in that way. You know, the idea of just having a lot of moving lights and stuff just seems, I don't think audiences like it. I mean, I think that they respond sort of, but you can kind of see in their eyes that they're just not that excited. Like when people get really, when they do a lot of this, and you see someone like, yeah, I'm gonna get a beer. Like, you know, they feel like the band acts like in a way they think the band is supposed to act, and then the audience acts in a way that they think the audience is supposed to act, and it just feels like a very empty, you know, it feels like an empty exchange that I don't feel like being a part of. That said, I love getting work, you know, having an audience really respond, but I like to make it awkward enough that they're only really gonna respond if they're really responding, like, you know. And production is one of those tricky things that if you do too much of it, it's just, we're not rock stars, and we never wanted to be. You know, we want to put on a good show. We want to make people have a really good time and be engaged, but, you know, and we're playing bigger places, so you can't just play in a little huddle. But at the same time, I still want to retain what it is about us that I like. But basically the same thing. It'll still be a guy yelling and a drummer up front and really loud stage volume.